The Great Hall on Nexus Prime had never seen so many different species in one place. Admiral Kriz'tal stood at the center podium, his blue skin gleaming under the bright lights. His forearms moved as he spoke, pointing to the large star map. Floating above the assembly, fellow council members, Kriz'tal began, his voice echoing through the massive chamber. We face a new threat from the Outer Rim. These creatures call themselves humans, and they come from a small world they name Earth. The 12 species that made up the Galactic Council listened carefully. Some had heard whispers about these new aliens, but most knew very little. The Chronari delegate, a tall being with gray skin and large black eyes, leaned forward in his seat. What makes these humans so dangerous? Asked Commander Kriz'tal, the most respected military leader among the Chronari. Surely they cannot match our combined fleets. Kriz'tal touched a control pad, and the star map changed. Red dots appeared across several star systems. These are human settlements. 6 months ago, there were only 3. Now there are over 40. They expand faster than any species we have seen. A worried murmur spread through the hall. The reptilian Sarkoth representative hissed softly. How is this possible? Do they breed like insects? No, Kriz'tal replied. Our scouts report they reproduce slowly, like most intelligent species. But they build ships quickly. And their ships are ... different. The star map zoomed in on one system. A recording began to play, showing grainy images of human vessels. The ships looked strange compared to the smooth, curved designs favored by most galactic civilizations. These human ships had hard angles and looked more like weapons than transport vessels. They do not follow proper first contact procedures, Kriz'tal continued. When our patrol ships approach their vessels, the humans do not surrender or request permission to enter our space. They simply state their business and continue on their path. This caused an uproar among the council members. For thousands of years, new species had always shown proper respect when meeting the established galactic powers. They would ask for permission, offer tribute, and accept guidance from their betters. This is unacceptable, declared the insectoid, Zenthari Prime Minister. Her compound eyes reflected the light as she spoke. No primitive species should show such disrespect to the council. Kriz'tal stood up, his imposing figure commanding attention. What do we know about their military capabilities? Kriz'tal hesitated. For a moment, our information is limited. They seem to use projectile weapons instead of energy beams. Their ships appear heavily armored. But they are still just one young species against the combined might of the galaxy. The council members looked at each other. Some seemed worried, others appeared angry at human arrogance. The ethereal delegate, a being of pure energy contained in a mechanical suit, spoke in a voice like wind chimes. Perhaps we should attempt diplomatic contact first. Diplomacy requires 2 willing parties, Kriz'tal responded firmly. These humans have shown no interest in following galactic law. They take what they want and ignore our territorial claims. Kriz'tal nodded in agreement. 3 of our mining colonies have reported human ships scanning their operations. When challenged, the humans claimed the systems were unclaimed territory. They refused to acknowledge our ancient rights to those regions. The debate continued for hours. Some delegates wanted to try peaceful contact, but most agreed that the humans needed to learn their place in the galactic order. Finally, a vote was called. The result was unanimous. The Galactic Council would send a combined fleet to intercept the human expansion and force them to accept proper terms of surrender. Kriz'tal was chosen to command the operation. He had successfully brought 17 different species into the galactic community over his long career. Most had surrendered immediately when faced with overwhelming force. Those few who resisted had been quickly defeated. I will assemble a fleet of 800 ships, Kriz'tal announced. Representatives from each of our 12 species will participate. Humans will see the true power of our united civilizations. The plan was simple and had worked countless times before. The massive fleet would intercept human ships near the contested Kepler system. They would demonstrate their overwhelming numbers and advanced technology. The humans would realize resistance was hopeless and agree to accept galactic authority. Meanwhile, Far from Nexus Prime, Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the USS Liberty. The ship was humanity's newest and most advanced vessel, though he did not know it would soon face the largest military force in galactic history. Jake was a career military officer who had worked his way up through the ranks. He had short brown hair, steady blue eyes, and the calm demeanor that came from years of command experience. His crew respected him because he always put their safety first while completing every mission successfully. Captain called out communications officer Amy Johnson from her station. We're receiving routine updates from Earth Command. All colonies report normal status. Amy was young, but highly skilled. She had joined the space service straight from technical college and quickly proved herself capable of handling the most complex communication systems. Her red hair was always pulled back in a regulation ponytail, and her green eyes missed nothing on her displays. "Thank you, Amy," Jake replied. He turned to his tactical officer. "Ben, what's our current position?" Ben Rodriguez studied his screens carefully before answering. "We're 3 days out from the Kepler system, sir. All sensors show normal space traffic for this region." Ben was a former fighter pilot who had transferred to capital ship duty after an injury grounded him from single-seat combat. He understood weapons and tactics better than anyone else on the ship. His quick thinking had saved the Liberty from several dangerous situations during their patrol missions. Chief Engineer Lisa Parker looked up from her engineering console. "Captain, all systems are running perfectly. The new quantum drives are performing better than expected," Lisa had designed many of the Liberty's advanced systems herself. She was brilliant with technology and could fix almost anything. Her short blonde hair and small frame were deceiving because she was probably the strongest person on the ship. When it came to problem-solving under pressure, the Liberty continued its patrol through space, unaware that the largest military force in galactic history was moving to intercept them. The crew went about their normal duties, checking systems and monitoring their assigned sector. None of them knew that in just a few days, they would make history. The massive galactic fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler system. 847 ships of 12 different designs, spread across space in a formation that had intimidated countless civilizations. The fleet was so large that it took 30 minutes for all vessels to complete their arrival. Commander Kriz'tal stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Dominion. The ship was 3 kilometers long and bristled with weapons that could destroy entire cities. Around him, his officers worked at their stations, coordinating with ships from 11 other species. "A status report," Kriz'tal commanded. His tactical officer, a young Chronari named Zenthari, checked his displays. "All ships have arrived and are forming battle positions. The Zephyrin wings are taking the outer flanks. Surkoth heavy cruisers are moving to the center formation." Kriz'tal nodded with satisfaction. His fleet represented the combined military might of the galaxy's most powerful civilizations. No single species had ever faced such overwhelming force and continued to resist. "Have we detected the human ships?" he asked. "Yes, sir. Long-range sensors show one vessel approximately 4 light hours away. It appears to be moving toward our position." Kriz'tal was surprised. "One ship? Are you certain?" "His readings confirmed, sir. Single contact. The vessel appears to be roughly 2 kilometers in length. It shows no signs of turning away despite our fleet's presence." This was unexpected. Intelligence reports had suggested the humans traveled in groups of 3 to 5 ships. Perhaps this was just a scout vessel, and the main human fleet was hiding nearby. "Begin active sensor sweeps of the entire system," Kriz'tal ordered. "I want to know if there are any hidden ships." While his crew worked, Kriz'tal studied the tactical display. The human ship continued moving directly toward his fleet at steady speed. Either the humans were incredibly brave or completely insane. "Sir," reported the communications officer, "we should broadcast the surrender demand now. Standard protocol requires we give them a chance to submit before opening fire." Kriz'tal agreed. This was how things had always been done. The overwhelming sight of the galactic fleet would make any reasonable species understand the hopelessness of resistance. "Open a transmission on all frequencies. Use the standard first contact protocol." The message went out across space, transmitted in over 300 languages. The basic meaning was simple. You are surrounded by the combined fleets of the Galactic Council. Power down your weapons and prepare to surrender. Any resistance will result in the complete destruction of your vessel. Light hours away, the USS Liberty continued its steady approach toward the Kepler system. The ship was beautiful in its own way, with clean lines and a design that looked both elegant and dangerous. Unlike the ornate vessels of the Galactic Fleet, the Liberty had been built for function over appearance. On the bridge, Communications Officer Amy Johnson suddenly looked up from her station. "Captain, I'm receiving a transmission. It's very strong and broadcasting on multiple frequencies." Captain Jake Morrison turned from the navigation display where he had been talking with Chris Miller, his navigation officer. Chris was a tall man with black hair who had served on 5 different ships before joining the Liberty. He had a talent for finding the safest routes through dangerous space. What's the message, Amy? Amy listened carefully, her equipment automatically translating the alien languages. "Sir, it appears to be a surrender demand. They're ordering us to power down our weapons and prepare to be boarded." Jake frowned. This was unexpected. Who is sending this message? "The signal is coming from the Kepler system, sir. But the power output is enormous. This isn't coming from a single ship." Jake called for his senior staff to join him in the briefing room just off the bridge. Within minutes, his key officers had assembled around the conference table. Besides Amy and Chris, the group included Chief Engineer Lisa Parker, Tactical Officer Ben Rodriguez, and Security Chief Kate Williams. Kate was a former Marine who had transferred to the Space Service 3 years ago. She was responsible for the Liberty's security teams and had extensive training in boarding actions and ground combat. Her short brown hair and serious expression made it clear she was not someone to underestimate. "What do we know about this transmission?" Jake asked. Amy consulted her datapad. "The signal is incredibly powerful, sir. Based on the transmission strength, I estimate at least several hundred ships are in the Kepler system." Ben looked up from his tactical analysis. "Captain, our long-range sensors are starting to pick up energy signatures ahead. The readings are unusual." "Unusual how?" "Power outputs are very high, but the technology appears to be outdated by our standards. The engine signatures look like fusion drives from 50 years ago." Lisa nodded in agreement. "I'm seeing the same thing in the engineering data. Their power generation systems seem inefficient compared to our quantum reactors." Jake studied the information carefully. "How many ships are we talking about?" Ben checked his sensors again. "The contacts are still at maximum range, but initial count suggests over 800 vessels, sir." A silence fell over the room. 800 ships was an enormous fleet by any standard. Even if their technology was older, sheer numbers could be overwhelming. Kate spoke up. "Captain, what are our orders regarding first contact situations?" Jake knew the regulations by heart. "We're supposed to attempt peaceful communication while maintaining defensive readiness. But we're not required to surrender to threats." Chris looked at the navigation charts. "Sir, we could alter course and avoid the system entirely. There's nothing in our mission orders that requires us to enter Kepler space." "That's true," Jake replied. "But running away sends the wrong message. If these aliens think humans will back down from threats, they might become more aggressive toward our colonies." Amy checked her communication systems. "Captain, they're still broadcasting the surrender demand. Should I respond?" Jake made his decision. "Yes. Open a channel and broadcast on the same frequencies they're using." Amy worked at her controls. "Channel open, sir." Jake stood up and spoke clearly. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the United Earth Defense Force vessel Liberty. You've entered space claimed by humanity. State your intentions and identify yourselves or withdraw from this system immediately." Amy closed the channel and looked at her captain. "Message sent, sir." "Now we wait and see how they respond," Jake said. "All departments return to your stations and prepare for possible combat. I want all systems ready in case this goes badly." The senior officers left the briefing room and returned to their posts. The Liberty continued toward the Kepler system, carrying 2,400 crew members toward what would become the most important battle in human history. Behind them, Empty space stretched back toward Earth in the growing human colonies. Ahead lay the largest fleet ever assembled by galactic civilization. Neither side fully understood what was about to happen. Commander Kriz'tal stared at his communication display in disbelief. The human captain had not only refused to surrender, but had actually demanded that the galactic fleet withdraw from the system. In his long military career, he had never encountered such arrogance from a single ship facing overwhelming odds. "Sir," his communications officer reported, "the human vessel is still approaching our position. They show no signs of slowing down or changing course." Kriz'tal turned to his tactical display. The lone human ship was now clearly visible on sensors. A sleek vessel that looked different from anything in the galactic fleet. Where their ships had smooth curves and decorative elements, the human ship appeared to be built purely for war. "What is their estimated time of arrival?" he asked. "At current speed, they will reach weapons range in 12 minutes, sir." Kriz'tal considered his options. The humans had been given a chance to surrender peacefully, but they had chosen defiance instead. Now, he would have to demonstrate the consequences of challenging galactic authority. "Send orders to the first wave," he commanded. 200 ships are to move forward and engage the human vessel. "We will show them what happens to those who refuse the Council's mercy." The first wave consisted of the fastest ships in the fleet. Zefarian attack cruisers, Sarkoth destroyers, and Krenari battle frigates moved ahead of the main formation. Their mission was simple: disable the human ship without destroying it completely. The humans needed to survive long enough to witness their defeat and accept surrender terms. On the Liberty's bridge, Tactical Officer Ben Rodriguez watched his sensors with growing concern. "Captain, 200 enemy ships are breaking formation and moving toward us. They'll be in weapons range in 8 minutes. Captain Jake Morrison stood calmly behind his command chair, studying the tactical display. The approaching alien ships were spread across a wide formation, clearly intending to surround the Liberty and attack from multiple angles. "All hands, battle stations," Jake announced over the ship's communication system. "This is not a drill. All crew members report to combat positions immediately." Throughout the Liberty, 2,400 crew members rushed to their assigned stations. In engineering, Chief Engineer Lisa Parker checked the ship's power systems one final time. The quantum reactors were running at optimal efficiency, providing more energy than the ship had ever used in training exercises. "Engineering to bridge." Lisa's voice came over the intercom. "All systems are ready, Captain. Weapons, shields, and drives are operating at maximum capacity." "Thank you, Lisa," Jake replied. He turned to Ben. "What's our weapon status?" Ben checked his displays. "Particle beam arrays are charged and ready. Point defense systems are online. All missile tubes are loaded with our newest warheads." Security Chief Kate Williams reported from her station. "Damage control teams are standing by on all decks, sir." "Medical bay is prepared for casualties." Jake nodded. "Amy, any further communications from the alien fleet?" Communications Officer Amy Johnson shook her head. "Nothing since their original surrender demand, sir. They appear to be maintaining radio silence, and they've made their choice," Jake said quietly. "Ben, as soon as they enter weapons range, you are authorized to engage. Target their lead ships first." The Liberty continued its steady approach toward the alien fleet. The ship's experimental systems hummed with barely contained energy as they prepared for the first real test of human military technology against alien forces. "Contact in 60 seconds, Ben reported. "Enemy ships are spreading into attack formation." Jake watched the display as the alien vessels moved into position. Their tactics were textbook perfect, exactly what he would expect from a professional military force. Unfortunately for them, the Liberty had capabilities they could not imagine. 30 seconds to weapons range, Ben called out. "All stations report ready for combat," Kate announced. 10 seconds, Ben counted down. 5.4.3.2. 1. Enemy ships are firing. The first alien salvo lit up space around the Liberty. Plasma torpedoes and energy beams struck the ship's shields, creating brilliant flashes of light. The bridge shook slightly as the defensive systems absorbed the impact. "Damage report," Jake called out. "Shields holding at 96%, Ben reported. "Minor fluctuations in the outer shell, but no significant damage." Jake was impressed by how well the Liberty's defenses handled the alien weapons. The enemy fire was powerful, but seemed to lack the focused intensity needed to penetrate modern human shielding. "Return fire," Jake commanded. Ben's hands moved quickly across his controls, firing particle beam array, the Liberty's main weapons. Unleash streams of concentrated energy that crossed the distance to the alien ships in seconds. The particle beams struck the lead Zenthari cruiser directly in its central section, cutting through its shields and armor. Like they were made of paper, the alien ship exploded in a brilliant flash that temporarily blinded sensors across both fleets. When the light faded, nothing remained but expanding debris. "Direct hit," Ben reported with satisfaction. "Target destroyed." But he was already acquiring the next target. The Liberty's computer systems calculated firing solutions faster than any human could think, automatically adjusting for the movement of enemy ships. "Firing again," Ben announced. More particle beams lanced out from the Liberty, striking 3 more alien vessels simultaneously. 2 Sarkoth destroyers and a Chronari. Frigate disappeared in explosions that lit up the darkness of space. On the Eternal Dominion, Commander Kriz'tal watched in horror as his first wave began to disintegrate. In less than 30 seconds, the human ship had destroyed 4 of his vessels, with what appeared to be effortless ease. "How is this possible?" he demanded. "What kind of weapons are they using?" His tactical officer studied the sensor readings. "Sir, the energy output from their weapons is beyond anything in our databases. The particle density is at least 3 times higher than our most advanced beam weapons." More explosions lit up space as the Liberty continued its systematic destruction. Of the first wave, the human ship moved through the alien formation like a predator among prey, its weapons striking with deadly accuracy. "Sir," the communications officer reported, "we're receiving panic signals from the first wave commanders. They're requesting immediate support." Kriz'tal realized that his carefully planned demonstration had become a disaster. The humans were not being overwhelmed by superior numbers. Instead, they were destroying his ships faster than his crews could react. "Signal the second wave," he ordered desperately. "All ships, full attack. Destroy that human vessel immediately." But, even as he gave the order, Kriz'tal began to understand that he had made a terrible mistake. The humans were not primitive barbarians who could be easily intimidated. They were something far more dangerous than anyone in the galaxy had imagined. The second wave of alien ships rushed toward the Liberty with desperate fury. Commander Kriz'tal had ordered over 300 vessels to attack at once, hoping that sheer numbers would overwhelm the human ship's defenses. The space around the Liberty filled with plasma fire, energy beams, and missile trails as the largest coordinated attack in galactic history began. Captain Jake Morrison stood firmly on his bridge as the ship shook under the massive bombardment. The lights flickered briefly, but the Liberty's systems held steady. His crew worked with calm efficiency, despite facing impossible odds. "Shields down to 78%, Ben Rodriguez reported from his tactical station. "But holding steady. Their weapons aren't penetrating our defensive grid." "Engineering status," Jake called out. Chief Engineer Lisa Parker's voice came over the intercom. "Captain, I'm rerouting power through the backup conduits. We can maintain full weapons output for at least another hour at this rate." Jake nodded. The Liberty had been designed to fight outnumbered, and every system reflected that philosophy. While the alien ships relied on overwhelming their enemies quickly, human vessels were built to endure long battles and keep fighting. Ben continued. "Targeting their capital ships. Focus on anything larger than a cruiser." "Understood, sir," Ben replied. His hands moved across the weapons controls with practiced skill, acquiring new targets now. The Liberty's particle beam arrays swiveled to track multiple enemy ships simultaneously. The targeting computers calculated firing solutions while compensating for the ship's movement through the alien formation. When Ben pressed the firing controls, 6 different beams lanced out in different directions. A massive Sarkoth battleship took 3 direct hits to its engine section and exploded. in a ball of fire that consumed two nearby frigates. Another beam sliced through a Zenthari heavy cruiser from bow to stern, splitting the ship in half. The remaining beams found their targets among the smaller vessels, each shot resulting in another enemy ship destroyed. 12 enemy vessels destroyed in that salvo, Ben reported. Acquiring next targets. Navigation Officer Chris Miller worked to keep the Liberty positioned optimally within the enemy formation. His job was to make sure the ship could fire on as many targets as possible while avoiding concentrated enemy fire. Coming about to heading 270, Chris announced, and this will give us clear shots at their command vessels. The Liberty moved through space with grace that surprised the alien commanders. Most large warships were slow and clumsy, but the human vessels seemed to dance between enemy formations. Its advanced drive systems allowed maneuvers that should have been impossible for a ship of its size. Security Chief Kate Williams monitored damage control teams throughout the ship. "Captain, we have minor hull breaches on decks 12 and 15, but the repair teams have them sealed. No casualties reported." "Good work," Jake replied. He watched the tactical display as more alien ships moved to attack positions. "Amy, are you picking up any enemy communications?" Communications Officer Amy Johnson listened to the intercepted alien transmissions. "Yes, sir. Their coordination is breaking down. Individual ship commanders are requesting new orders, but their fleet command isn't responding quickly enough." This was exactly what Jake had hoped to see. The alien fleet was used to fighting weaker opponents who would surrender or flee quickly. They had no experience with a prolonged battle against an enemy that could match their firepower. "Ben, target their command ship," Jake ordered. The large vessel in the center of their formation. Ben studied his displays. "I see it, sir. It's a big one. 3 kilometers long and heavily armed. Hit it with everything we have." The Liberty's main particle beam array concentrated all its power into a single devastating blast. The focused energy beam struck the Eternal Dominion directly. Amidships, cutting through its shields and armor like they were made of glass, the massive alien flagship shuddered under the impact, losing power to half its systems. On the bridge of the Eternal Dominion, Commander Kriz'tal was thrown to the floor as his ship took the devastating hit. Emergency lights flickered on as main. Power failed throughout large sections of the vessel. "Damage report," he shouted over the sound of alarms. "Sir, we've lost engines 2 through 5, his engineering officer reported. "Hull breaches on multiple decks. Weapons array is down to 30% capacity." Kriz'tal pulled himself back to his feet and stared at the tactical display. In less than 3 minutes of battle, the human ship had destroyed over 40% of his fleet. Ships that had served the galaxy for decades were being swept away like debris in a storm. "How many ships have we lost?" he asked quietly. "Current count shows 216 vessels destroyed or disabled, sir. The human ship shows no signs of damage." Kriz'tal felt his world collapsing around him. This was supposed to be a simple demonstration of galactic power. Instead, it had become the worst military disaster in recorded history. Back on the Liberty, the crew continued their methodical destruction of the alien fleet. The ship's automated systems worked perfectly, managing power distribution, targeting calculations, and defensive measures without human intervention. This allowed the crew to focus on strategy and tactics rather than basic ship operations. Captain Ben reported, "Enemy ships are starting to break formation. Some are attempting to retreat." Jake watched as several alien vessels turned away from the battle and began accelerating toward the edge of the system. He understood their panic, but he couldn't let them escape to report human capabilities to their home worlds. "Pursue the fleeing ships," he ordered. "We can't allow them to carry intelligence back to their fleets." The Liberty's superior speed allowed it to catch the retreating alien vessels easily. One by one, the fleeing ships were destroyed or disabled before they could escape to hyperspace. "Sir," Amy called out, "I'm receiving surrender transmissions from multiple enemy vessels. They're requesting terms." Jake considered this development. His orders were to protect human space and demonstrate Earth's military capabilities. He had certainly accomplished both objectives. How many enemy ships are still functional? He asked. Ben checked his sensors. Approximately 200 vessels remaining, sir. Most have powered down their weapons. Jake made his decision. Signaled the enemy fleet. Tell them to maintain their current positions and prepare to be escorted to human space for negotiations. Battle was over. In just over 4 minutes, a single human warship had defeated the largest military force ever assembled by galactic civilization. The age of human expansion had begun with overwhelming victory. At exactly 4 minutes and 12 seconds after the first shot was fired, Commander Kriz'tal made the hardest decision of his military career. His flagship was badly damaged. Over half his fleet was destroyed, and the human warship showed no signs of slowing down its devastating attack. Open a channel to all ships, he ordered his communications officer with a heavy heart. Channel open, sir. Kriz'tal took a deep breath. All vessels, this is Fleet Commander Kriz'tal. Fixed fire immediately. Power down all weapons and prepare to surrender. This battle is over. The order went out across the scattered remains of the once mighty galactic fleet. Ship after ship powered down their weapons and raised white surrender flags on their communication. Erase. The greatest military force in known history had been defeated by a single human vessel. On the Liberty's bridge, Captain Jake Morrison watched the enemy ships surrender with mixed feelings. He felt proud of his crew's performance, but sad about the destruction they had been forced to cause. War was never something to celebrate, even when victory was complete. Captain Communications Officer Amy Johnson reported, "We're receiving surrender signals from all remaining enemy vessels. They're requesting terms and asking for medical assistance." Jake nodded. "Signal our acceptance of their surrender. Tell them we will provide humanitarian aid to damaged ships." He turned to his crew. "Good work, everyone. Stand down from battle stations, but maintain defensive readiness." The bridge crew began shutting down weapon systems and returning the ship to normal operations. Ben Rodriguez saved his targeting data while Chris Miller plotted courses to the damaged alien vessels. Security Chief Kate Williams organized teams to help with rescue operations. "Lisa," Jake called over the intercom. "What's our status?" Chief Engineer Lisa Parker's voice came back immediately. "All systems functioning normally, Captain. We used about 40% of our total power reserves. The quantum reactors are running cool and steady." Jake was amazed at how well the Liberty had performed. The ship had faced nearly 1,000 enemy vessels and emerged almost completely undamaged. Human engineering had proven itself superior to anything the galaxy could produce. "Amy, send a message to Earth Command," Jake ordered. "Priority 1 transmission. Tell them we've made contact with a galactic civilization and achieved complete military victory. Request immediate diplomatic support." Amy worked at her controls. "Message sent, sir. Earth Command should receive it in approximately 6 hours." Jake turned his attention to the humanitarian crisis developing around them. Hundreds of alien ships were damaged, and thousands of crew members needed medical attention. The Liberty had medical facilities, but they were designed for human physiology. "Kate, organize rescue teams," he commanded. "Work with our medical staff to determine how we can help the wounded aliens. We may not know their biology, but we can provide basic emergency supplies." Kate saluted. "Yes, sir. I'll coordinate with Dr. Ryan Clark to see what we can do." Dr. Ryan Clark was the Liberty's chief medical officer, a skilled doctor who had served on 3 different ships before joining the crew. He was tall and thin with gray hair and kind eyes that made patients trust him immediately. His medical bay was about to face its biggest challenge yet. Over the next several hours, the Liberty moved from ship to ship in the scattered alien fleet. Human rescue teams transported emergency supplies, medical equipment, and temporary hull patches to vessels that needed immediate help. The aliens were amazed by the generosity shown by their conquerors. "Commander, Kriz'tal was brought aboard the Liberty for medical treatment and surrender negotiations." As he walked through the human ship's corridors, he was struck by the differences between human and galactic design. Everything was efficient and functional, built for purpose rather than show. Jake met the alien commander in the Liberty's main conference room. Kriz'tal was impressive even in defeat, a tall figure with dignity that commanded respect. His forearms were bandaged from injuries sustained during the battle, but his eyes remained alert and intelligent. "I am Captain Jake Morrison," Jake said, offering his hand in the human gesture of greeting. Kriz'tal studied the extended hand before carefully shaking it with one of his own. "I am Commander Kriz'tal of the Chronary Fleet. I must ask, Captain Morrison, how many ships does humanity possess like yours?" Jake smiled slightly. "That information is classified, Commander, but I can tell you that the Liberty is not unique." This was not entirely true. The Liberty was actually the most advanced ship in the human fleet, but Jake saw no reason to share that detail with his prisoner. "I see," Kriz'tal replied quietly. "Then my people have made a grave error in judgment." "Perhaps," Jake agreed, "but this doesn't have to end in more conflict. Humanity is interested in peaceful relations with your civilizations." Kriz'tal looked surprised. "After what has happened here? After we attacked your ship without provocation, you gave us a chance to surrender first?" Jake pointed out. "That suggests your people have honor, even if your leaders made poor decisions." Two commanders talked for several hours, with Kriz'tal explaining the structure of the Galactic Council and Jake describing humanity's rapid expansion into space. Both began to understand that the galaxy was about to change forever. Meanwhile, news of the battle spread throughout both human and alien space. On Earth, government leaders were amazed by reports of the Liberty's victory. In the galactic capital, the council members faced the reality that their position of dominance was ending. Emergency sessions convened on dozens of worlds as species that had ruled the galaxy for millennia suddenly found themselves facing a new and superior power. Some wanted to continue fighting, but most recognized that resistance would only lead to more devastating defeats. Jake completed his report to Earth Command while the Liberty escorted the surrendered alien fleet toward human space. His message was simple but revolutionary. Humanity was no longer alone in the universe, and they had announced their presence with overwhelming strength. The Liberty continued its patrol mission, now accompanied by 200 alien vessels carrying diplomats instead of warriors. The ship that had won the 4-minute war was leading a convoy toward negotiations that would reshape the balance of power across the galaxy. Captain Jake Morrison stood on his bridge, looking out at the stars that no longer seemed so empty. Humanity had taken its first step onto the galactic stage, and that step had shaken the foundations of civilizations that had existed for thousands of years. The age of human expansion had begun with victory so complete that it would be remembered forever. As the day the galaxy changed hands in just 4 minutes,